So in this video, we will first begin with the vestibular apparatus of our body. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So now the vestibular apparatus is a sensory organ which is there for detection of equilibrium. First of all, we should know that vestibular apparatus is located in which portion of the ear. It is located in the inner ear. As you know, there are three divisions of the ear. One of the division is called the external ear, one is called the middle ear, one is called the internal ear. And in the internal ear, which we also call the bony labyrinth, which is located in the petrous portion of the temporal bone, there is this vestibular apparatus, which is further divided into a bony labyrinth and a membranous labyrinth. Let's have a look. So here is our vestibular system, and you know the vestibular system, as I told you, it is composed of two things. One is the bony labyrinth and other is the membranous labyrinth. So bony labyrinth is actually forming the framework, and bony labyrinth has three portions. One is known as the cochlea, other is known as the vestibule, and other is the semicircular canals. Now in these bony labyrinths, located within them, there are membranous labyrinths, which are actually called the ducts. In the cochlea, the membranous labyrinth is known as cochlear duct. In the vestibule, the membranous labyrinth are of two types. One is the utricle, another is the saccule. Saccule is located antero-inferiorly and the utricle is located postero-superiorly. Then we have the three semicircular canals. The semicircular canals are actually the bony labyrinth, and the membranous labyrinth in them are known as their semicircular ducts. Now the space between the bony labyrinth and the membranous labyrinth is filled with a fluid that is known as perilymph, and the space that is inside the membranous labyrinth or the duct system is known as it is filled with a fluid that is known as the endolymph. Now each of these three systems, apart from containing the types of ducts and the types of lymph in them, apart from them they also have certain organs of receptors. Certain receptors are present over there. For example, in the cochlea, the receptors are known as the organs of Corti, and they are associated with the sense of hearing. In the vestibule, the organs are known as the macula, and they are associated with static position. Whereas this one, in the semicircular canals, they are associated with the organs or the receptors. They are known as the crista, and they are associated with the sense of position, or not static position but kinetic position, moving position. So this is for hearing, this is for static position. Both of them are for static position, and the semicircular canals and their ducts are for the kinetic position or motion or moving position. Now first of all, we will have a look at the macula. The organs of Corti, and all of their structure has been discussed in chapter number the ones associated with the hearing one. Now we will discuss about the macula. As I told you that in the utricle and saccule, which are the actually portions of the vestibule, so their bony labyrinth is the vestibule, but in the bony labyrinth, the membranous labyrinth is the saccule first and utricle then. Saccule is the first portion. It is located antero-inferiorly and it is in a horizontal plane. And when it is in a horizontal plane, then what will happen? The macula of the saccule is in a vertical plane, and the signals of head orientation is when a person is lying down. So this saccule, which is located antero-inferiorly, it is present in the vertical plane and is associated with the signals when a person is lying down. Whereas the utricle, which is present postero-superiorly, it is associated, or it is present in a horizontal plane, and it is concerned with the signals of a person when the person is in a upright position. So these are the two signals and their association with the saccule and the utricle. Now we will look at the macula, that is the organ that is present in them, or the receptor that is present in them, how it is oriented. Let's have a look. So in this diagram of the macula, one thing that you can observe is that it has, first of all, it has hair cells, then there are hair tufts. Apart from the hair tufts, the tufts are going into a gelatinous layer. The gelatinous layer is known as statoconia. Because this is associated with static position, so its gelatinous mass, which is made up of calcium carbonate, it is known as statoconia. And below it, the nerve fibers are originating from the base and also from the sides of these hair cells. So this is how the macula is oriented. Also here in this diagram you can see the macula as well. So this is the macula or the hair cell. This whole portion is of the hair cell, and you can see on its base and on the sides of these hair cells the nerve fibers are originating and they are going forwards. Now on its superior surface we also have the sterocelia and kynocelia. The sterocelia are oriented, there are hundreds of them, and they are oriented in a descending fashion. But with the largest sterocelia on the lateral side of the largest sterocelia, we have one kynocelium. So each hair cell has hundreds of sterocelia but one kynocelium. The sterocelia oriented in descending position, but the kynocelia is associated with the largest sterocelia. Now the sterocelia are connected to each other by a filamentous attachment which is not visible by the electron microscope, but the filamentous attachment also attaches the largest sterocelia with the kynocelium as well. Now, how will they detect any sound wave, or how will they detect the static position? First of all, when the sterocelia, they move in the direction of the kynocelium. For example, the kynocelium is oriented like this. So sterocelia, all of them move in the direction of kynocelium or towards the right side of my hand. So what will happen? There will be depolarization activated, and the depolarization will cause the membrane channels. For example, there are calcium channels which are located on the base of the sterocelia. The calcium channels will open, as a result of which there will be a lot of calcium ions which will move from the endolymph into the hair cell, and there will be depolarization and a signal will be generated which will be carried by the nerve fiber. Similarly, when the sterocelia, they move in a direction that is opposite to direction of the kynocelium, like they are going to move in the opposite direction. So due to the motion of the opposite direction as compared to the kynocelium, what will happen? There will be hyperpolarization which will be activated. The hyperpolarization will cause these calcium channels which are located at the bases of these sterocelia on the cell membrane, they will be closed. When the calcium ions will closed, what will happen? The negativity will increase inside the cell. When the negativity will be increased, no signal will, there will be hyperpolarization, no signal will be produced, and hence the nerve fiber will not be carrying any signal. Now one thing that they have also mentioned in the chapter is that normally the nerve fiber is carrying a signal at a rate of 100 per second. But when the depolarization process takes place and the stereocilium move in the direction of the kynocelium and there is depolarization, influx of the positive ions, what will happen? The signal strength will increase to several hundred per second, from 100 to several hundred. That is, the signal strength will be amplituded or it will be amplified. Then the second thing is when there is movement of the stereocilia in opposite direction to the kynocelium, when there is hyperpolarization, what will happen? These calcium channels or these ion channels will close. There will be negativity inside the cell. Now the signals that were normally moving like 100 per second, they will reduce to 1 per second, or even there will be no signals moving at that point. So this is how depolarization, hyperpolarization and normal sensations take place in the macula cell and the hair cells of the macula. And the nerve fiber that is associated with the macula is the vestibular nerve. And the vestibular nerve is synapsing with the base as well as the sides of the macular hair cells. And as we know, their stereocilia or their hair cells, they are going to be inserted into a gelatinous mass which is made up of calcium carbonate, that was known as the statoconia. And I told you that this statoconia was very much important because first of all, it is having a specific gravity that is 2 or 3 times greater than the surrounding fluid. Then it will bend the hair cells in the direction of the gravitational pull. So this is how it is very important. Now, as I told you that in the semicircular canal, which was the bony labyrinth, the membranous labyrinth in the semicircular canal is going to be the semicircular ducts. Now, the semicircular ducts, there are 3 ducts. They are anterior, posterior and lateral semicircular ducts. But how are they oriented? They are oriented in 90 degrees with each other. If I can show this thing to you. So these three semicircular ducts are oriented in 90 degrees angle with each other. One of them is like anterior, one is posterior, and one is lateral. So the angle between any of the three is 90 degrees, as you can see in all the planes. So this is how they are oriented, and they are oriented in all the three planes of the three-dimensional space, that is the horizontal, the vertical, and the lateral planes. Also, in each of the semicircular duct, there is a normal portion and one dilated portion, which is known as ampulla. So every semicircular canal is duct is like this, and it has a dilated portion, which is known as the ampulla. Now they are saying when the head is bent forward about 30 degrees, what will happen? In that situation, the lateral semicircular ducts, they will become horizontal to the earth, whereas the anterior ducts in the vertical planes project forward 45 degrees, whereas the posterior ducts, they are going to project backward 45 degrees outward. So what will happen that due to the 30-degree position of the lateral semicircular ducts, the anterior ducts, which were oriented forwards, now they will be oriented outwards but in an angle of 45 degrees. Similarly, the posterior duct which are oriented backwards, now they will be oriented in outward direction at 45 degrees. And as I told you, each semicircular duct has an enlargement which was known as the ampulla, and the duct and the ampulla, they are filled with a fluid that I told you was the endolymph. In all the membranous labyrinths, there is the fluid which is known as endolymph. Now, the sensory organ that is present in them, the receptor that is present in the semicircular ducts, is the crista ampullaris. Like any other organ, crista also has some things. First of all, let's have a look at this crista. So this is the crista, which has hair cells. The hair cells have hair tufts projecting from them. The hair tufts are projecting into the gelatinous mass, which is known as the cupula, and then the hair cells are also connected with the nerve. Now they're saying that when person's head starts to vibrate or move in one direction, what will happen that the fluid, because of the inertia, will not move, but the semicircular ducts and the semicircular canals will move. This process causes the fluid to flow from the duct through the ampulla. Because of the random motion, what will happen? The semicircular canals are moving, but the fluid is stopped to move by the means of its inertia. But still the fluid will be flowing through the ampulla, it will be flowing through the duct. Because of its flow from the ampulla and the duct, the fluid will cause the bending of cupula or the gelatinous mass of the crista. Because of this bending, what will happen? There will be depolarization or hyperpolarization generated. Now, rotation of the head, for example, if the head is rotating in this direction, the cupula will bend in this direction. If the head is rotating in opposite direction, cupula will bend in opposite direction. Now, similar to the macula cells, the cupula also has kinocilium and also has sterocilium. Now, the kinocilia are oriented like this, for example. So, if the motion of the head is in the direction of the kinocilia, what will happen? There will be depolarization. This depolarization will open the calcium ion channels. The calcium influx will be there, positive ion influx will be there, and hence a signal will be produced, which will be carried by the nerve fibers. But when the head rotates in a direction that is opposite to the direction of the kinocilia, what will happen? There will be hyperpolarization principle activated. The hyperpolarization will cause the those calcium channels to close. There will be negativity inside the cell. When there is negativity inside the cell, it means there is no action potential generated, no nerve cell potential, nothing. So no cell signal will be carried by the nerve fiber. And on this nerve as well, the vestibular, this nerve of the uh, semicircular ducts is also known as the vestibular nerve as well. And this vestibular nerve carries the signals from the vestibular apparatus, from the semicircular ducts to the central nervous system, and the central nervous system is apprised whether there is increased in the signal, whether there is decrease in the signal, whether there is normal signal flowing through. So through this mechanism, central nervous system gets activated and gets to know about the change in rotation of the head and rate of change in all the three planes of space. The rate of change I told you was associated with whether the semicircular canals are oriented in certain direction with the surface of the earth. That is the rate of change in each of the three planes of space. And second thing is the change in rotation, and change in rotation can be detected by the endolymph that is flowing through the semicircular ducts. Now in the next video we will discuss the function of utricle saccule in the maintaining of static equilibrium.